Hello all and welcome to another Winged review. Now long time viewers of mine probably saw this one coming, seeing as the very first Winged review I ever did was of X-Men First Class, and then last year I did the Wolverine as well. And now we have Days of Future Past, so it stands to reason I'll do this one as well, seeing as I am a massive fan of the X-Men franchise. Never read any of the comics, but I love the films, I love the TV series all those years ago, loved Evolution. I did the X-Men Legends games. I did a 1 versus 2 of those on Super Real Productions. I'll put a link to that down there somewhere if you fancy a look at that. It was a pretty good video actually. So always loved the series, and now we've got the new film, which I just had to see. I've been really looking forward to it for a very long time. And my flatmate and I went to see it a couple of weeks ago. Both of us thoroughly enjoyed it. By the way, no spoilers at this point in the review. I will be discussing some stuff a little bit later on, but for now there won't be anything major. It'll just be basic stuff, so don't worry about any spoilers coming along. Basic plot of the film then. In the future, it's sort of like a dystopian future. War between humans and mutants has come to a critical point. Sentinels are openly hunting mutants, and everything's just gone to hell really, all because Mystique assassinated Bolivar Trask God knows how many years ago. So they decide to send back the Wolverine to try and stop her from assassinating Bolivar Trask, hoping that it will make a better future for everyone. That's it really. It was really well done. The reviews for the film have been extremely positive. There's been so many good things said about it, the best film, the franchise and all that sort of thing. And yes, the film was very good, but it probably wasn't quite as good as the critics and reviews and all that have made it out to be. We both, my flatmate and I, James, we thoroughly enjoyed the film. It just probably wasn't quite as good as the reviews have been making it out to be, but you can decide for yourself. But I'm one of the really few people who actually thoroughly enjoyed The Last Stand. It was my favourite of the trilogy, still is my favourite of the main trilogy, and when I first saw First Class, I thought, it's good, but it's not as good as The Last Stand. But then having watched First Class before seeing Days of Future Past, I thought, yeah, it probably is actually the best of the one, and although Days of Future Past is very good, it's probably not quite as good as First Class, but you can make your own things up. I mean, the effects in the film are extremely well done. It's probably got the best special effects of any film in the franchise so far, so it did really well on that front. The fight scenes were really good, and the mutant powers were used extremely well in this for very good sort of tactics and team building and all that sort of thing, so they did extremely well with it. It's very well thought out, and it was just an extremely entertaining film. It was maybe a tad on the long side. I think it was something like 2.5 hours, but it was still really good and worth watching. 2.5 hours, that sort of thing. So I really enjoyed it. It was brilliant. There were a few mutants in it who weren't in it all that much, mainly Storm. I mean, Halle Berry is pregnant at the moment, so she had to have a lot of stuff taken out, which is fair enough, but it still would have been nice for her to have been in it a little bit more. But for the most part, yes, very good film. Go and see if you haven't done it already. We're now going to be going on to some of the more nitty-gritty kind of things that I noticed throughout the film. So if you don't want any spoilers or anything like that, go see the film now, switch off, go see it, or go do something, but don't watch the rest of the video, okay? Because now, spoiler stuff. Right. As I was watching the film, I was trying to sort of place it within the timeline of other films. Although I knew it was sort of like right at the end, there were things in it that were happening where it contradicted other things in the franchise. The main one being that at the end of the Wolverine, Wolverine loses his adamantium claws and he ends up with the bone claws, but then in Days of Future Past, in the future, he's got his metal claws back, which just didn't make any sense whatsoever. So it pretty much seems as though you need to just completely negate everything that happens in the Wolverine and Origins. So although those films are spin-offs, it's almost as if they literally don't have any correlation to these films whatsoever. As long as you've seen the main trilogy and First Class, it's probably actually better if you don't watch Wolverine and Origins, seeing as it will just confuse like it did me. So as long as you've seen those 4 films, you can see this, no problems. But thing is, at the end of Origins, when Xavier loses the use of his legs, he gets shot, well, accidentally. In First Class, when he first appears, he's actually walking. What's his name? James McAvoy's version of it. He is walking around. Turns out the Beast stayed with him, and he created a serum which gives. It's something like it affects his DNA, so it heals the wound in his back so that he can walk again, but as a side effect he loses his psychic abilities, which you think, okay, fair enough, that's his choice, he'd rather walk around, that's up to him. But considering that Beast has made this life-changing serum that millions of people around the world could really have benefited from, yet he just Charles just keeps it to himself, and he just uses it. It's almost like a drug addiction to him, which is an interesting way of going with it, but you've cured a disability. You could have done so much with it. They just kept it to themselves. It just seems stupid to me that they'd managed to make this life-changing serum and then just not tell anyone about it. I don't know, it just seemed dumb. It was really weird. I mean, but yeah, you just roll with it and you take it for what it is and you just go along with it and yada yada yada. It just seemed really weird. There were a few, I think in the original comic, apparently for this, it was Kitty Pryde that went back in time, but because in this film, it sends the mind of the person back into the body of their younger self, because where it was going back something like 40, 50 years, had they sent Kitty Pryde back as it was in the comic book, Kitty would have been like minus 20 at the time, so it wouldn't have worked, so they had to send back the Wolverine, seeing as he was alive at the time, which... It's different, but it makes perfect sense. It's a film, it's an adaptation, they're going to adapt it slightly. So, it worked. It worked. It was good to see him go back. I mean, it was quite funny because they said that given Wolverine's healing ability, he will look exactly the same back then as he did now. And because Hugh Jackman's playing both roles, he did look exactly the same. So, it was quite good that they threw that into it. There were some other good scenes in the film. Quicksilver makes an appearance, and although he's not in it very much, he does have some... Well, there's one cool scene where it's almost like a bullet time thing where because of his speed, he goes all around and it is really good. I think there's probably more things. It's been a couple of weeks since I've seen the film, so there are loads of things that I was originally going to mention, but as it's been 2 weeks, I've probably forgotten half of it now. But on the whole, it's a very, very good film. Really looking forward to it. There is the post-credit scene, actually. I mean, it's En Sabanur who, Apocalypse, but seeing as I knew about the Apocalypse film being made before seeing the film, having that at the end, it didn't really have much of an effect on me. I mean, when it ended, James literally went, "Is that it?" at the screen in the middle of the cinema, so I don't think he was too impressed with it, but if you didn't know about the film coming up and you knew you saw that, then it would probably be a big, oh my god moment for the future film. Actually, when I did the X-Men Legends 1 vs 2, because the Legends 2 is based on the Apocalypse storyline, loosely based, I've always said that I would love to see the Apocalypse storyline put into a film, and now they are doing it. I am more looking forward to that than I was looking forward to Days of Future Past, so I'm so looking forward. I can't wait for it to be released next year. Expect a winged review of that as well. But for now, it's a really good film. It has its flaws, and there are contradictions to previous stuff and all that sort of thing, of course, but even so, for the most part, absolutely brilliant film. Not quite as good as The Hype, but still really entertaining. Check it out. See you next time.